Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take big, complicated ideas, sift through the noise, and really try to give you the clear facts you need to make powerful decisions. Today, we are opening up a file on a concept that, well, for millions of people worldwide, it represents the ultimate seductive promise, a magical shortcut to immediate financial freedom.
That's right. It's a really potent idea.
Imagine waking up tomorrow, completely debt-free. Your student loans, maybe your family's mortgage, credit card bills, poof, just gone, evaporated instantly. And not only that, but you never have to pay income tax again. And in fact, a mysterious, massive influx of wealth is about to land right in your bank account, courtesy of some kind of secret government maneuver.
It sounds incredible, doesn't it?
It does. It's not just reform. This is the promise of solving every single financial problem you could possibly face all at once. That perfect dream, that global magic wand scenario, that's really the core theory behind NESARA and its international cousin, GESARA. NESARA stands for the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. And our mission today is absolutely critical, especially for you, the learner, as you're, building your foundational understanding of the world.
It really is.
We are going to unpack the sources that explain what this theory is, why it is so overwhelmingly appealing, and most importantly, why it serves as a classic, almost textbook example of a financial scam. One built entirely on misinformation, false hope, and the illusion of secret insider knowledge.
Yeah, that secret knowledge part is key.
This deep dive is fundamentally about learning how to deploy sophisticated critical thinking skills. It's about how to protect your future financial judgment from promises that are, frankly, just too good to be true.
And it's essential, right from the start, to have a clear, critical framework. When you encounter these huge, world-changing claims, the very first question you have to ask is this a verifiable political or economic reality, or is this a conspiracy theory?
Big difference there.
A profound difference. There's a gap between a real-world proposal, maybe written by an economist, debated openly, maybe even flawed, versus a narrative that claims to reveal some kind of secret plan hidden by shadowy forces.
Okay.
And we absolutely have to acknowledge the appeal of NESARA GESARA. I mean, let's be honest. For many people, debt feels absolutely crushing.
It does.
Taxes are complex. They're frustrating. Dealing with global inflation, the cost of lying, it can feel overwhelming, like the whole system is rigged against you.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
So when someone steps forward and offers a simple, instant, almost magical solution to these incredibly complex, deeply structural global problems, well, it resonates.
Yeah.
It resonates powerfully.
Of course.
But that very simplicity, that promise of a perfect instant fix without any real effort or sacrifice on anyone's part, that should be the loudest warning sign.
Yeah.
That's the thing we need to train ourselves to listen for. It's the hook.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Where did this actually start? Because the initial kernel of the idea, before it went completely off the rails, it seems like it came from a genuine desire for economic reform, right? Back in the U.S.?
That's correct. Back in the 1990s, there was a specific individual, Harvey Francis Barnard. He was an economist, a professor, and he developed a detailed, though definitely ambitious, proposal for restructuring the U.S. economy.
And he called it NESARA.
He named it the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, NESARA. But it's absolutely vital for you, the listener, to understand the enormous gulf between what Barnard actually proposed and what the modern conspiracy theory claims today. They're worlds apart.
Okay, so what were his original ideas?
The initial ideas were certainly bold, no question, and they were centered on completely rethinking how the U.S. government generated revenue and how banking fundamentally worked. Barnard's framework had three main structural components. He was aiming for what he saw as greater financial equality and stability.
All right, what's the first one?
First, he proposed replacing the existing federal income tax system, which, let's face it, is notoriously complex, expensive to administer, and often incredibly frustrating for the average worker with a national sales tax.
Okay, a consumption tax.
Exactly. The philosophy was shifting the tax burden away from labor and production, things like your wages, onto consumption. So you wouldn't be taxed primarily on what you earn, but rather on what you spend.
Interesting idea. But that sounds simple enough on the surface. What about the financial side, the banking regulations?
Well, that brings us to the second component. He proposed ending compound interest on secured loans.
Okay, let's break that down for the learners. Compound interest.
Right. Simply put, it's when you earn, or more often owe, interest on both the original amount you borrowed the principal and on the interest that is already built up from previous periods.
It's how debt can snowball, right?
Precisely. It's what makes debt grow so quickly. And secured loans are those backed by collateral. Think like a mortgage on a house or a loan for a car. Barnard wanted to dramatically reduce the cost of things like homeownership and other long-term debt by putting limits on how much interest banks could effectively charge over the life of the loan.
Okay, so national sales tax ending compound interest on secured loans. That's the third pillar. Sounds like it might be related to currency itself.
You got it. The third idea was very much rooted in classical economic theory, something you often hear in discussions about monetary stability.
Which was?
A return to a bimetallic currency standard. For centuries, currency value was often linked directly to the value of a physical commodity, typically gold or sometimes silver.
Right, the gold standard idea.
Well, similar, but Barnard proposed linking the U.S. dollar back to both gold and silver, hence bimetallic. The theory behind this was to prevent the government from just printing money without real tangible backing. He believed this would stabilize the currency's value in the long term, prevent runaway inflation.
Okay, so we have this detailed, maybe controversial, but still a concrete set of economic ideas from the 90s. A national sales tax, limits on compound interest, a gold and silver-backed dollar. But here's the crucial point, right? The foundational fact that everyone needs to grasp.
Yes, this is absolutely critical. These are simply proposals.
Just ideas on paper.
Ideas written down by Barnard. Crucially, critically, they were never formally introduced in the U.S. Congress. They were never debated by lawmakers. They were never voted upon.
So, NESARA, the actual legislative concept from Barnard.
It died on the drawing board. It never became law. Not even close. It never existed as anything more than a written concept, a proposal that went nowhere legislatively.
This is where the story takes a wild turn, isn't it? It leaps from this, unrealized academic proposal to a full-blown international conspiracy theory.
Exactly. The idea didn't just fade away. It mutated. It transformed, specifically leveraging the rise of the early internet think forums, email chains, back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. The narrative was effectively hijacked by certain figures, often using the official-sounding name NESARA to give themselves an air of authority, and they completely twisted it into this elaborate tale of high secrecy and imminent global change.
So they kept the name but changed the entire story.
Pretty much. The modern belief system, which often blends NESARA with its U.S. focus and GESARA, the supposed global version, claims that this law, Barnard's proposal, or some version of it, was actually secretly passed.
Secretly? Like how?
Well, the stories vary, but often they cite it happening around the year 2000, maybe signed under duress by a president or passed in some clandestine, unrecorded session of Congress. They claim this law exists but has simply been withheld from the public by an evil cabal. You often hear terms like the deep state or shadowy global elites.
Wow. So they take a legitimate-sounding acronym, NESARA, something that did exist as a proposal, and they basically retrofit it with these incredibly explosive secret claims. What's the scale of those claims today? What are people being told is coming?
Oh, the scale is immense. The lure is the promise of an imminent, massive economic reset. A global financial event that they say will be triggered any day now by the activation of this secret law.
And what does this reset involve?
They promise the instant and complete forgiveness of all debt, personal debt, corporate debt, mortgages, credit cards, student loans, everything, just wiped clean across the board.
All of it, just gone.
All of it. They also claim all income taxes and federal taxes will be abolished forever. No more IRS.
Okay.
And, perhaps the most enticing part, they claim sudden, enormous wealth. Sometimes they talk about trillions of dollars will be secretly distributed to the public, often through some mechanism called the St. Germain Trust or other kinds of secret funds. The idea is that believers will instantly become wealthy beyond their wildest dreams.
This sounds, well, it sounds completely fantastical.
And this is precisely where you see the concept stray, completely into pure fantasy. Because, think about it, to explain why this supposedly world-changing event hasn't happened yet, even though they claim it was signed into law over 20 years ago, the narrative requires increasingly dramatic and, frankly, non-economic explanations.
Right, because the economics don't add up, so they need something else.
Exactly. The sources promoting this theory today frequently incorporate elements that have absolutely nothing to do with economic policy. You hear tales of secret military tribunals dealing with the cabal. You hear about ongoing hidden conflicts between benevolent white hats, supposedly the good guys in the military or government, fighting against this deep state cabal of bad guys.
Okay, that's already pretty far out there.
It gets weirder. Sometimes you even find bizarre connections to things like UFOs, intergalactic treaties, and claims that extraterrestrial intervention is actually needed to finally push the law through or protect the process.
Aliens. Seriously, involved in debt relief.
It sounds absurd, but these elements are often woven into the narrative online.
So I guess the key takeaway here is pretty clear. When a conspiracy theory needs, like, secret alien assistance to explain why a basic proposal about changing the sales tax hasn't been implemented after 20 years,
Right.
it has fundamentally abandoned any rational connection to its original source material, hasn't it? The sheer scale and, frankly, the absurdity of the current claims are themselves the evidence. We're dealing with modern folklore, not fact.
Precisely. It's moved far beyond any grounding in reality.
Okay, let's apply that critical thinking lens then. Section 2. This is where we really strip away the fantasy, hold these claims up to the cold, hard light of economic and legal reality. Because the most seductive part of the promise that instant fix is also, ironically, the most glaring indicator that it's basically impossible.
Absolutely. Let's start with the core promise versus economic reality.
All right, so let's unpack that main claim: wiping out all debt and abolishing all taxes. For those of us, learning about how global financial systems actually work, this sounds amazing on the surface, but what would the real-world implication actually be? Is it even possible?
We have to understand the fundamental difference between wishing for debt cancellation and the brutal mechanics of how money actually functions globally. The U.S. national debt, for example, isn't just some abstract big number on a website.
Right, it's money owed to actual people and institutions.
Exactly. It's a legal obligation. It represents money borrowed by the government from specific entities, specific investors. Now, if you try to instantly wipe out the trillions of dollars in U.S. national debt, plus all the personal debt like mortgages and loans, you're not just hitting some kind of cosmic reset button.
No, you're defaulting.
You are destroying the wealth and the solvency of everyone who holds that debt. And who holds that debt? Think about it. Pension funds, the money people are depending on for their retirement. They are heavily invested in U.S. government bonds and other forms of debt.
Okay, so retirees get wiped out. Who else?
Foreign governments hold huge amounts of U.S. debt. Banks hold it. Insurance companies hold it. And millions upon millions of individual investors, both in the U.S. and abroad, hold this debt as part of their savings and investments.
So if the government suddenly just announced, guess what? We don't owe you that money anymore. What happens next?
You trigger an immediate global economic implosion, not a golden age.
Right.
If the U.S. government were to suddenly default on all its sovereign debt, the entire global financial system would effectively cease to function overnight. The value of the U.S. dollar would collapse instantly. International trade, which relies heavily on the dollar and trust in U.S. obligations, would freeze up.
It sounds like chaos.
It would likely cause a global recession or depression that would make the Great Depression of the 1930s look like a minor hiccup. Instead of prosperity, you'd have immediate worldwide financial catastrophe because nobody, no country, no bank, no investor would trust the U.S. government's promise to pay its obligations ever again. Trust would be shattered.
Okay, so the debt cancellation part is economically impossible without total collapse. What about the tax issue? The sources claim all income taxes are just abolished. How does the government function then? Where does the money come from?
Yeah, the tax issue is equally grounded in fantasy, unfortunately.
Right.
Taxes, even though nobody really likes paying them, are the fundamental mechanism that funds the most basic operations of any modern, complex society.
Like what? Give us examples.
Well, taxes fund the military. They maintain all public roads and infrastructure. They pay for public schools, police forces, fire departments, air traffic control, food safety inspections, environmental protection, literally everything that prevents society from descending into anarchy and allows commerce and daily life to even happen.
So abolish all taxes overnight.
And the government stops functioning overnight. Period. The lights go out. The promises made by NESARA, this idea of instant prosperity, a smooth transition, everyone suddenly having money backed by gold, they're completely disconnected from how money, governance, and basic economics actually work on planet Earth. They're mathematically and logistically impossible to achieve without causing a complete societal breakdown first.
And there's a manipulation tactic here too, right? Targeting specific people.
Absolutely. It's really important to note this. These huge, unrealistic promises, total debt forgiveness, no more taxes, free money, they are specifically designed to appeal to people who are most economically vulnerable.
People struggling.
People struggling with inflation, maybe job loss, people buried under high debt burdens. When you are under intense financial stress, your natural critical thinking guard tends to drop, understandably so. And the promise of instant, impossible relief becomes incredibly intoxicating. It makes the complete lack of proof or logical consistency much easier to just swallow.
Okay, so the economics are impossible. Let's move from the economic side to the legal side. Where is the proof? Where is the verifiable paper trail for this supposed secret law that underpins everything?
This is perhaps the most critical insight for anyone studying law, government, or just basic civics. Laws that fundamentally restructure an entire nation's economy, let alone the global economy, cannot possibly be secret. It's just not how legal systems work. They are, by definition, a matter of public record.
Explain that process. How does a law actually get made in the U.S.?
Sure, in the United States, every single piece of legislation, no matter how small or how large, whether it's a simple bill naming a local post office or a massive 1,000-page appropriation to act fund of the government, it must follow a strict, multi-step, and very public process.
Okay.
It has to be introduced by a member of Congress, either a representative or a senator. It gets assigned a tracking number. It's debated in public committees. It has to be voted on publicly, on the record, in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And ultimately, if it passes both chambers, it has to be signed into law by the president, again, publicly.
And all of this is documented.
Every step. All of this is publicly documented, archived, and indexed. You can look it up in official databases like congress.gov or the Library of Congress website. You can literally track every single major law passed since the founding of the country. There are no surprise laws hidden away somewhere that suddenly cancel trillions in debt and abolish the IRS. It just doesn't happen.
So the very concept of a secret law of this magnitude.
It's an internal contradiction. It's fundamentally illogical within our system of government. Think about the logistics. If such a law were real, thousands upon thousands of people would have to know. High-ranking government officials, career legislative clerks who process the paperwork, federal bankers who'd implement it, international financial bodies who'd react to it.
Yeah.
All of them would have had to know about it, process it legally, and then actively conspire to keep it secret from the entire world for over 2 decades.
The scale of that conspiracy would be unbelievable.
The logistical and legal impossibility of pulling that off is just staggering. It defies common sense.
So the bottom line on the legal front.
The bottom line is the modern NESARA narrative has absolutely zero credible, verifiable physical or digital evidence of ever being passed, tracked, or implemented as law. None. Without any legal validation, the entire theory rests purely on belief. It rests on faith in the word of some anonymous online source or prophet, rather than on objective, verifiable fact. And that's the crucial difference between real knowledge and pure fantasy.
Right. And this lack of any basis in reality, economic or legal, brings us directly to the most practical and, frankly, dangerous outcome. Because people believe this secret law is real and about to be announced. NESARA and GESARA become perfect vehicles for real-world financial exploitation. This is where the fiction starts causing very real harm to actual people.
Absolutely. This is the scam vehicle aspect. Scammers leverage these acronyms, NESARA, GESARA, constantly to solicit money from believers. The methods they use can be varied, but the underlying motivation is always exactly the same: making a profit based on generating and selling false hope.
What are some of the common methods they use? How do they get money out of people?
Well, one major method is just straight up requests for donations.
Donations for what?
Scammers will claim they need funds to support the heroic white hat military operations that are supposedly fighting the deep state right now to get the law announced. Or they'll ask for money to fund a legal defense fund for the brave individuals who are supposedly risking everything to leak the secret documents.
But it's
just a cash grab, dressed up in patriotic or heroic language, plain and simple.
Okay, what else?
A second, and often highly effective method, is promising future payouts. This is really insidious.
How does that work?
The scammer claims that you, the believer, need to pay a small fee, now maybe a registration fee, a processing charge, an administrative fee, could be $50, $100, sometimes more, to ensure your name is securely on the list for the massive multi-million-dollar payout that's coming once the law is finally announced.
Ah, playing on the fear of missing out.
Exactly. It leverages that FOMO fear of missing out on the promised instant wealth. People pay the fee because they desperately don't want to be left out when the reset happens.
And what about the more modern tools of financial fraud? Things like crypto or even precious metals. Are they used here?
Oh, absolutely. That is perhaps the most serious and financially damaging threat in the modern version of these scams.
Awesome.
Scammers actively solicit investments in specific cryptocurrencies. Often these are brand new, completely unregulated digital assets. They'll claim that these specific coins will be the only ones recognized or used by the new GESARA-backed financial system.
So get in now or be left behind.
Right. They promise astronomical returns, claiming these coins will replace the existing fiat dollar and go to the moon in value. People pour real money into what are often completely worthless or fraudulent crypto projects.
And gold and silver. You hear that a lot, too.
Yes, they also push hard for investments in physical gold and silver. Often they direct believers to specific dealers who, of course, give the scammer promoting them a kickback, a cut of the sale. The narrative is that you absolutely must have physical precious metals to survive the transition period or to exchange for the new currency.
So they profit from the fear they create.
Precisely. The real danger here, especially for you as a learner thinking about your future, is that victims, many of whom were already financially desperate to begin with, have lost significant, often life-changing amounts of money. Real money, hard-earned savings, retirement funds sometimes, all based on the expectation that this non-existent, fantasy-based financial theory is about to materialize any day now.
Wow.
They are essentially trading their actual tangible capital for fictional faith-based hope. And the scammers, the ones promoting it, they walk away with the profit.
It's heartbreaking, really, which leads us to Section 3. It's easy for us, looking from the outside, to just dismiss this as completely irrational belief. But if, as you said, millions of people around the world are drawn to this idea, we have to look deeper, right? We have to understand the psychology. Why does this fantasy persist, even when the dates keep shifting and the evidence constantly proves it wrong?
That's a crucial question. What's truly fascinating and also quite concerning is analyzing the deep psychological needs that this theory fulfills for believers. Well, think about everyday life, especially financial life. It's complicated, right? Dealing with taxes, mortgages, student debt, trying to plan for retirement. It often feels like you're navigating this dense, incredibly frustrating maze where you constantly seem to hit dead ends or get ripped off.
Yeah, that resonates.
Human brains, almost instinctively, are wired to prefer simplicity over complexity, especially when anxiety levels are high, like when you're stressed about money. NESARA offers the ultimate easy button. Click, problem solved.
Right, bypasses all the hard stuff.
Exactly. It bypasses the need for long-term effort for difficult things like budgeting, financial discipline, saving money consistently, or the often painful and humbling process of working with legitimate debt counselors or financial advisors. It basically says, forget that whole complicated maze. We have a secret teleportation device that gets you straight to the treasure.
It takes all the hard work, all the complexity, all the personal responsibility out of the equation and just replaces it with this single moment of promised, guaranteed magic.
Yes. And it validates a powerful feeling that many people already have. The feeling that the current system is fundamentally unjust or rigged.
How so?
Most people feel, at some point or another, that the financial system seems stacked against the average person, that maybe the government serves powerful elites, that debt feels like a deliberate trap designed to keep people down. NESARA powerfully validates this sense of injustice. It says, you're absolutely right, the system is evil and rigged, but look, there's a secret benevolent force, the white hats, the alliance, whatever, who are about to swoop in and rescue you.
That validation must feel really good.
It's emotionally powerful and can become quite addictive. It makes people feel seen and understood in their frustrations.
And does it connect to other beliefs people might already hold?
Oh, definitely. This theory connects almost seamlessly with broader conspiracy frameworks that might already be present. If you already believe, for instance, that the world is secretly run by shadowy, unaccountable global elites, often referred to as the cabal or the New World Order, then it seems perfectly logical that the only way for the good guys, the white hats, to fight back and restore true freedom would be through some kind of massive, secret, completely unexpected maneuver like GESARA.
It fits the narrative.
It creates a simple, unified narrative that explains all the world's complex problems: war, poverty, corruption, debt in one single stroke. It's all the cabal's fault, and GESARA is the one solution. Simple. Appealing.
Okay, so there's the appeal of simplicity and validation, but you mentioned earlier this idea of insider knowledge. Is there an emotional reward tied to that too?
Absolutely. Beyond just the hope of financial relief, there's a really powerful emotional reward attached simply to believing in NESARA. It's the feeling of being in the know, of being in on the secret.
And you're special.
Exactly. Believers aren't just passively waiting for money. They gain a sense of holding exclusive privileged knowledge. They feel like they're the informed ones, the ones who have done their own research and discovered the hidden truth, while the rest of the population is supposedly ignorant, brainwashed by the media, or simply asleep.
That feeling of being superior, almost.
That feeling of possessing exclusive moral or intellectual superiority can be an intense emotional reward in itself. Often it becomes more valuable psychologically than even the promise of the money. It builds community and identity around the secret.
Hmm. And this leads to something you mentioned, the way people react when the promises don't happen, the delays.
Yes, and this is where we see a crucial psychological defense mechanism that actually keeps the scam profitable. It's the consequence of delay, often tied to what psychologists call the sunk cost fallacy.
Sunk cost fallacy. Explain that for our listeners.
Sure. The sunk cost fallacy is the common human tendency to continue an endeavor or commitment simply because we've already invested resources in it, resources like time, effort, or money, even when the rational decision, based on current evidence, would be to quit.
Like staying in a bad movie because you paid for the ticket.
Exactly like that. Or maybe standing in a really long queue for hours, even though the line barely seems to be moving. You tell yourself, well, I've already waited this long. I can't give up now. I'd lose everything I invested.
So when the big NESARA reset that was promised for, say, last Tuesday doesn't arrive, instead of thinking, maybe this isn't real, believers.
They double down. They feel they've already invested so much months, maybe even years of their time following the intel, maybe hundreds or thousands of dollars on prep materials like gold or that special crypto. They justify the delay. They accept the excuses offered by the promoters. Oh, the deep state must have put up a bigger fight than we anticipated, or there was unexpected interference, or even framing it as a positive. The delays are actually necessary tests of faith to weed out the fake patriots before the blessings arrive.
So they dig in deeper.
They fall deeper into the scheme because the emotional investment, the time investment, the social investment within the believer community is now simply too high to face the possibility, let alone admit, that they might have been wrong all along.
Wow. That's powerful manipulation.
It's profoundly successful because the theory builds up such an intense level of hope. You will be free, your life is about to be perfect, just be patient a little longer,
Yeah.
that it completely overwhelms the normal critical thinking skills needed for rational financial planning or evaluating evidence objectively. The belief becomes a core part of their identity, their social circle, making it exponentially harder to confront the disappointment and the painful prospect of admitting the entire foundational theory might be false.
Okay, so we've got the impossible economics, the legal black hole, the psychological hooks. Let's pivot now in section 4 to the mechanics of the actual profit. We've hinted at it, but who is really financially benefiting from pushing these endlessly delayed secrets? Because it sounds like this isn't just random misinformation. It's a massive, global, and seemingly highly profitable business model built entirely on manufacturing and selling hope.
That's exactly right. We absolutely must shift our focus to people actively creating and distributing this content. We're talking about the online influencers, the commentators on YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, the writers on platforms like Substack, the hosts running dedicated Telegram channels, the ones who constantly claim they have direct access to inside information about NESARA GESARA.
The self-proclaimed insiders.
Yes, and their primary goal, overwhelmingly, is not altruistic public service. It is, quite simply, to monetize belief. This is what we can call the insider economy. It's an economy built on selling secrets that don't exist.
Okay, so how does that monetization system actually work, practically speaking? Especially when the core product they're selling, the big reset, never actually arrives. How do they keep making money?
It's a multi-pronged approach. Let's break down the 3 primary methods they use to generate a sustainable income stream, even if every single prediction they make fails, week after week, year after year.
All right, method 1.
First, the most basic level, ad revenue and platform engagement. The more dramatic and sensational the claims, things like confirmed by military intel, debt cancellation next week, or breaking, the military is moving into position for GESARA, the more attention they capture online.
Clickbait, essential.
Pure clickbait, driven by urgency and secrecy. It attracts high view counts on videos, more clicks on articles, more listens on audio streams. More engagement translates directly into higher advertising revenue payouts from the platforms themselves, like YouTube, Facebook, or wherever they host their content. The secret information is the bait, and the clicks generate real-world income for the creator.
Okay, ads and views. What's the second method? Sounds like it might be more direct.
It is. The second, and perhaps most obvious source of sustainable profit, is through subscriptions and memberships. This is where they convert their casual viewers or listeners into actual paying customers.
How do they pitch that?
They'll offer things like VIP access to supposedly more sensitive intel, maybe Patriot Insider subscriptions, or they'll simply ask for recurring monthly donations through platforms like Patreon or directly via PayPal.
and people pay for this.
Yes. These payments, maybe it's $5 a month, $10, sometimes $20 more, add up quickly when you have thousands of followers. It becomes pure, predictable profit for the influencer. And it's fueled entirely by the listener's desperate desire to hear the next secret update maybe 5 minutes before everyone else, or to gain access to supposedly uncensored content that got taken down elsewhere.
Okay, ads, subscriptions. What's the third way they make money? You mentioned it earlier in the context of scams.
All right, the third method is affiliate marketing. And this is where the grift often gets particularly subtle and perhaps most financially damaging for the believers.
Remind us how affiliate marketing works.
Sure. For the learner, affiliate marketing is basically when a content creator promotes someone else's product or service, and they get paid a commission, a percentage, or a cut of the sale every single time one of their listeners or viewers buys that product using their unique tracking link or code.
Okay, so how does that play out in the NESARA world?
Well, typically the influencer might spend half an hour talking dramatically about the coming financial collapse, the worthlessness of the dollar, and the imminent arrival of the new gold-backed currency under GESARA. They build up fear and urgency, and then they immediately pivot.
To the sales pitch.
Exactly. They'll say something like, to protect your family during this chaotic transition, you absolutely must immediately purchase physical gold and silver, and the only place I trust is my recommended provider. Then they provide a link or a phone number.
And they get a cut if people buy from that provider.
Precisely. They might do the same thing with specific cryptocurrencies, survival food kits, water filters, alternative health supplements, anything they can frame as necessary preparation for the coming changes. They are directly monetizing the panic and uncertainty they just created. They make money whether or not NESARA ever happens, because they profit directly from your purchase of the supposed preparation materials. It's a very effective loop.
Wow. Okay, so that's the business model. But to make this sustainable, especially the subscription part, the influencer has to build an incredible level of trust, right? How do these profits maintain credibility, especially when their predictions consistently fail month after month?
That's the art of the grift, really. They cultivate a very specific, carefully crafted profit persona.
What does that look like?
They often present themselves as former insiders, maybe claiming vague military intelligence backgrounds or connections to powerful figures, or they style themselves as courageous messengers or digital soldiers or whistleblowers who have supposedly risked their safety, their freedom, maybe even their lives, to bring these dangerous deep state secrets out to the public.
Creating a narrative of sacrifice.
Exactly. They create this compelling self-sacrificing narrative that makes it emotionally very difficult for their audience to question them or doubt their sincerity. Who wants to challenge the brave hero risking everything for us?
And they use specific language tactics too, right? Things to listen for.
Oh, absolutely. They rely heavily on specific manipulation tactics and certain types of language. You should really train your ear and your critical thinking to spot these catchphrases, because they're often designed specifically to shut down rational inquiry and foster blind trust.
Give us some examples. What should we listen for?
Listen for definitive claims that are based entirely on anonymous, unverifiable authority. Phrases like, "My source deep inside the Pentagon just confirmed the exact date of the announcement," or "A very high-ranking general, who I can't name for security reasons, told me this personally."
Always anonymous.
Almost always. They couple this with isolation tactics, saying things like, "You won't hear this anywhere else because the mainstream media is actively covering it up to keep you asleep." This reinforces the listener's feeling of being special, uniquely informed, part of an exclusive club.
And the big one.
And perhaps the most common and in many ways the most dangerous phrase is the simple, direct command: trust the plan. It discourages questions and demands faith over evidence.
Right. And we have to, again, just apply a basic logic check here, don't we? If this information were truly classified, top secret, military-level intelligence regarding a worldwide financial restructuring and event that would instantly shock global markets and change everything, it could not legally, practically, or securely be broadcast live on a publicly available YouTube stream. Or posted in a free-for-everyone Telegram group just for the sake of getting clicks and ad revenue, could it?
It's a fundamental contradiction. The logic completely breaks down.
Yeah.
If the intel were actually real, sensitive, and world-changing, it wouldn't be public. The fact that it is public, blasted out daily on social media, is itself proof that it's not real classified intelligence.
Good point.
Furthermore, if their core prediction, the announcement date, changes constantly week after week, oh, it was delayed last Friday because of unexpected cabal interference, but now my sources say Sunday is the absolute hard date. Oh, wait, no, hang on. Now Intel suggests it's next month for sure.
Yeah.
That isn't real data. That is clear evidence it's a moving target, a narrative device designed solely to sustain audience attention and keep the money flowing. Real intelligence provides specific, confirmed, non-shifting details, or it admits uncertainty. It doesn't just make up new dates every few days.
Okay, which brings us neatly to the core mechanism that keeps this whole insider economy profitable: the endless cycle of delays and blame shifting. Since the big announcement is always imminent but somehow never actually arrives, the goalposts have to shift constantly to retain viewership, subscriptions, and investment, right?
Precisely. The stall tactic is absolutely essential for the survival of these channels and influencers. When the promised date last Tuesday, next Friday, the end of the month inevitably passes without the advertised debt cancellation or the delivery of massive wealth. The influencer must provide an immediate, emotionally satisfying, and preferably complicated-sounding explanation for the failure.
And that explanation never involves them being wrong.
Never. The explanation never, ever involves the influencer admitting, oops, my source was wrong, or maybe I misinterpreted the information, or certainly not, perhaps this whole theory isn't real. No, the language is always focused on external blame shifting.
Blaming who?
They'll blame deep state interference that successfully managed to delay the rollout at the very last second. They'll claim the cabal is fighting back much harder than expected, requiring more time. Or they'll try to spin the delay positively, justifying it by saying things like, actually, the White Hats are cleverly using this extra time to conduct more secret arrests or to clean up more hidden corruption, ensuring everything is perfect before the big reveal. It's kind of a genius, if deeply cynical, perpetual content machine, isn't it? Every failure, every missed deadline just generates new material for them.
That's exactly what it is. This constant cycle of delay serves two absolutely critical profit mechanisms for the promoters. First, as you said, each delay generates new content. It necessitates another urgent video update, another emergency live stream, another round of potentially panicked followers clicking, watching, and maybe sending donations to help the cause fight the latest deep state roadblock.
It keeps the engagement high, keeps the ad revenue flowing. Second, and perhaps more importantly from a psychological perspective, it keeps the audience emotionally trapped by that sunk cost fallacy we discussed.
Right.
If they give up now, after waiting for months or years, after maybe telling their friends and family about it, after investing hope and maybe money, it feels like all that investment was wasted. So they remain locked in, desperately clinging to the belief that the next prediction, the next date, must be the real one because they've already come this far.
So the promoters profit not from any actual success or result,
but from the endless, expertly monetized cycle of manufactured hope and strategically explained delay. It's a business built on perpetual expectation, not delivery.
Okay, so we've clearly established that GESARA is built on, well, fantasy economics, legal impossibilities, psychological manipulation, and a cynical profit motive. But let's talk about the real costs in Section 5, because the damage here goes far deeper than just someone losing a few dollars on a website membership fee or buying some overpriced silver coins. We need to talk about the true cost, especially for you, the learner, as you're trying to navigate your own financial future.
Yes, this is crucial. Beyond the obvious financial exploitation, the actual money lost on fake prep kits, worthless crypto tokens, or unnecessary gold purchases, there's a profound emotional and psychological toll that this takes on believers.
How does that manifest?
Well, when people invest their entire lives, their hopes, their plans for the future in this promised miracle, and then it just never, ever arrives, the eventual disappointment can be absolutely crushing. We're talking about deep disillusionment, feelings of betrayal, sometimes even despair.
And what about trust?
That's even more significant, perhaps. There is often severe trust erosion, because the NESARA community constantly, relentlessly tells its followers that all legitimate sources of information, mainstream news, fact-checking organizations, certified financial advisors, established banks, government agencies, even their own skeptical friends and family members are all shills, liars, part of the deep state cover-up, or hopelessly asleep.
So believers learn to distrust everyone outside the echo chamber.
Exactly. They stop trusting any verifiable, grounded source of real-world information. This is profoundly isolating. It cuts them off from reality checks and makes them increasingly incapable of making rational decisions or evaluating information outside the confines of their specific belief system.
And this leads directly to what I think is probably the greatest danger, especially for younger people trying to build a secure future: the delay in realistic action.
This is such a critical point for every learner to internalize. Think about it logically. If you genuinely, truly believe that all your debts are going to be magically canceled next month, or that you are literally about to receive a multi-million-dollar payout from a secret trust fund, why on earth would you bother taking the difficult, often tedious practical steps needed to manage your finances today?
Yeah, why budget? Why save?
Why engage in the hard work of budgeting carefully? Why go through the potentially embarrassing process of attending debt counseling? Why bother taking on the responsibility of finding a better job, earning more, learning new skills, or investing wisely for the long term? Why do any of that hard stuff if a magic wand is about to fix everything?
Right. Believing in the magic solution stops people from doing the real work.
Precisely. They sit passively, just waiting, monitoring the telegram channels for the next announcement, waiting for a rescue that will simply never materialize. And in doing so, they often waste critical formative years they could have used to acquire real-world financial skills, develop disciplined habits like budgeting and saving, and actually build tangible, lasting financial security through their own hard work, education, and smart planning.
It's a massive opportunity cost, self-inflicted.
A huge self-inflicted opportunity cost, fueled by false hope.
And does it have broader impacts too, like on society?
It can, yes. Furthermore, it often acts as a massive distraction from real civic engagement and problem solving. If your primary focus is entirely consumed by following supposed secret military operations online, decoding cryptic messages from Q, and constantly waiting for a global financial reset event,
You're not focused on your local community.
you generally stop engaging in meaningful, tangible change in your own life and your own community. You might stop paying attention to local elections, stop advocating for real policy reforms that could actually help people, stop volunteering or working with local community groups on real-world problems, because you're just waiting for this fake top-down magic reset to fix everything instantly. All the energy, time, and passion invested in the fantasy is energy taken away from engaging with and improving real life.
Okay, so the dangers are real and multifaceted. How do we protect ourselves then? How can our listeners, especially the younger ones, develop the skills to spot not just NESARA, but any kind of scam built on secrecy, grand promises, and insider claims?
That's the goal. We want to equip you with an actionable, critical thinking toolkit, some concrete steps you can take right now, whenever you encounter these kinds of claims, to protect yourself.
So, when you encounter any grand theory, maybe a new investment opportunity that sounds too good to be true, or an online profit promising huge secret rewards, slow down, pause, and ask yourself these 4 crucial verification questions. What's question number 1?
Question 1. Do they show verifiable, documentable proof for their claims? Or are they relying entirely on trust me assertions and references to anonymous, unsourced insider information? Remember, real laws leave a paper trail. Real documents are indexed and can be found. Real-world events leave concrete, verifiable evidence. If the source of the information is always just, trust me, my secret source said so, that is a massive red flag. Demand actual proof.
Okay, demand proof. Question 2.
Question 2. Do they ask you for money? Are they asking for fees, paid memberships, recurring subscriptions for exclusive updates, selling special prep kits, or requiring some kind of registration fee? Think about it. If someone is truly trying to save the world or liberate humanity with critical information, why do they need your $9.99 monthly subscription fee to do it?
Good point. World-saving intelligence shouldn't be behind a paywall.
Exactly. And related to this, are they aggressively pushing you toward a specific investment, a particular crypto coin, a specific gold dealer, a survival food company, especially if they clearly benefit financially from your purchase? If so, they're not primarily saving you, they're selling you something. Follow the money.
Makes sense. Follow the money. Question 3.
Question 3. Do their specific predictions or deadlines keep changing constantly? Every few weeks, is there a new date, a new excuse? If the timeline is perpetually shifting, oh, it was supposed to be last Friday, but now the real date is Monday, then oops, slight delay, now it's definitely next month, then okay, maybe next quarter for sure. They're not operating on real, reliable intelligence. They're operating on a script designed solely to buy them more time until the next monetization cycle can begin. Real plans have consequences for delays. Scams just have excuses.
Look for the moving goalposts. Okay, and question 4. You said this might be the most important psychological test.
Yeah. Yes. Question 4 is about how they handle dissent or skepticism. Does questioning the theory, asking for evidence, or expressing doubt make you feel disloyal? Does it get you labeled as negative, asleep, or even an enemy?
How the community reacts to questions.
Exactly. If the community leaders or the influencer themselves respond to your perfectly logical questions, not with evidence, but with emotional manipulation, calling you names like a shill or a bot, accusing you of not trusting the plan, or suggesting you're somehow helping the cabal by asking questions, that is a massive sign. It indicates you're dealing with an emotionally closed system, a kind of information cult designed specifically to prevent critical thought and isolate you from any rational external input. Real information and legitimate movements welcome scrutiny and honest questions. Scams and cults punish them.
That's a powerful set of questions. So, proof, money, shifting deadlines, and punishing questions.
Use those 4 filters. And ultimately, the best protection against getting sucked into these grand, distracting fantasies is simple, if perhaps less exciting. Focus your valuable time and your mental energy on grounded, verifiable financial advice and action.
Real stuff.
The real stuff. Focus on learning practical skills like budgeting. Focus on proven debt reduction strategies if needed. Consider working with certified, legitimate financial professionals, advisors, counselors who are legally and ethically bound to act in your best interest, rather than relying on grand, secret promises from anonymous online prophets who clearly profit from keeping you anxious and hopeful.
Okay. So, to summarize our deep dive today, NESARA. It actually started as a legitimate, though ultimately unintroduced, set of economic reform ideas back in the 1990s.
Right, from Harvey Barnard.
But because it failed to become law, its official-sounding name was effectively hijacked. It mutated over time, largely online, into a dangerous, globally spread conspiracy theory, one that promises huge, immediate financial rewards, debt forgiveness, tax abolition, free money, with absolutely zero verifiable evidence to back it up.
And it functions as an incredibly powerful scam vehicle. Online influencers and promoters monetize this false hope by selling cycles of imminent expectation and exclusive insider access. They build up emotional and sometimes financial dependence on a miracle that is, by design, endlessly delayed. For these promoters, the focus isn't on revealing any actual truth, it's entirely on monetizing your attention and your hope.
So as we close today's deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought. The most valuable asset you possess in your financial life isn't some secret intel or a winning lottery ticket. It's your own active, informed decision-making power.
That's right. Waiting passively for some secret financial reset, some juicy miracle, wastes incredible amounts of your precious time and your limited mental energy. That's time and energy that could and should be spent creating real, tangible, verifiable, and permanent positive change in your own financial life through your own actions.
So connect this to the bigger picture for us. What's the final takeaway?
The final takeaway is this. True, lasting financial security is never built on passive waiting or relying on secret luck or handouts from hidden benefactors. It is built, brick by brick, through active control. It's built by setting smart, achievable goals, by saving diligently even when it's hard, by budgeting effectively to control your spending, and by investing wisely over the long term.
It's hard work.
It is hard work. There's no magic shortcut.
Yeah.
But it is real, it is achievable, it is under your control, and ultimately it is the only reliable way to actually guarantee your financial future. Passively waiting for a magical secret to solve all your problems means you are giving your power, your agency, and often your money away to someone else. So be critical, be informed, demand evidence, and stay in absolute control of building your own future.